Before heavy carries and the sandbag to shoulder, before stones and before high rep pull-up specialization, there was the row. It's always been the row. For as long as I can remember, rows have been that exercise that always gets me pumped up to go train. Ever since that day when I first learned that rows build a thick strongman-like back, I've been hooked. I remember thinking, this is what I want. I don't care about arms or legs or abs or anything else. I want a back like a strongman. For a long time now, I've been training exclusively with sandbags and calisthenics. It's been the most productive training of my life, but due to the nature of sandbag rows, I stopped doing nearly as much rowing as I used to. In the context of a sandbag-focused training program, rows are usually there as an accessory exercise to the basic lift from the ground to the lap. I have an entire video on this if you're interested, but more than anything, rowing a sandbag teaches leg drive. The problem with the movement is difficulty scaling. The stronger you get, the more difficult the exercise becomes. A heavier sandbag is typically a longer sandbag, and a longer sandbag means a more bent-over starting position. It's like deadlifting a barbell. You can lift more weight using a standard shoulder-width grip because you're able to maintain a more upright torso angle. As you move your hands further apart, however, turning the exercise into more of a snatch grip deadlift, the difficulty increases, as you'll need to bend over further to lift the bar. The extremely bent-over position means the standard sandbag row is much more of a glute, hamstring, and low back movement than it is an exercise for the upper back. It does work the upper back, and it does have indirect benefits, as a stronger lift from the ground means more weight lifted during other effective exercises, but you can't row like you would with a barbell. Not really. You can't just grip it and rip it, as they say, at least not to the same extent that you could with a more vertical torso angle. The standard sandbag row from a horizontal position on the ground has never made me consider just going all out on the volume and intensity. These rows have always existed in a different place, a more practical place, whereas heavy barbell rows, heavy rows as an upper back movement, have always lived in a place of pure motivation, that screw it, I'm training again for the second time today type of place. The solution to this was so simple, I'm almost embarrassed to say I didn't think of it sooner. If the difference between practical and that wild, reckless abandon is torso angle, all I had to do was row in a way that would allow me to maintain a more upright torso angle. All I had to do was turn the sandbag from a horizontal position to a vertical one. I had kinda written off lifting from a vertical position on the ground a while back when I first started working with heavier sandbags. It works well with lighter weights, but eventually the vertical lifting technique becomes kind of impractical. Just as the horizontal lift from the ground has a problem with difficulty scaling, so too does the lift from a vertical position, only in a different way. From a vertical position, a longer sandbag is more likely to run into your body as you try to lap it, increasing the difficulty. Once a sandbag is long enough, not only do you need the strength to lift the weight, but you also need the strength to bring it further out in front of you to compensate for the increased size. With a sandbag row, this is a non-issue because you don't actually need to lap the bag. Giving credit to one of the strongest people I know, I actually first saw this rowing technique used by Jeff Rourke on his YouTube channel. He was repping out sets with 310 pounds, just to give you an idea of how strong he is. When I first tried this vertical rowing technique, I could not believe how powerful I was. In this position, your hands stay closer together, which means a more vertical torso angle and a huge leverage advantage. Rowing this way is a complete return to that place of pure upper back motivation. You can really push the volume and intensity, and it's honestly just a fun exercise to do. As someone who trains my back every single day, it's rare for me to get some good upper back soreness, but the first day after these sandbag rows, my upper back was completely fried in the best way. The exercise might not carry over quite as well to strength from the ground to the lap when compared with its horizontal counterpart, but that's beside the point. You can do both. For pure upper back muscle growth, the vertical row is it. This technique lets you move some pretty heavy weight too. I managed to row my 275-pound sandbag, which I'm nowhere near being able to do from a horizontal position. As with all sandbag lifting, I think these work best as an explosive power movement. Honestly, there's not much space for slow and controlled when it comes to heavy sandbags. Everything must be attacked with powerful intent, and the row is no different. For this reason, I recommend not worrying too much about form with these. The basics are necessary for safety, of course. The spine should remain rigid throughout the movement, and proper breathing and bracing is essential, but approach the movement with power in mind, as if it were an Olympic lift. Use your legs and try to be explosive. The exercise is suited for any rep range. With my lightest sandbag, a complete burnout set of 10 plus reps has been very effective. There aren't many sandbag movements I'd recommend in this rep range, but with the vertical row, you can just keep going for a long time. 10 sets of 3 and 5 sets of 5 both also work well with moderate weights. With my heaviest sandbags, I've been using cluster sets. Something like 5 sets of 3 singles has been effective. For example, I'll take a deep breath and brace from a standing position, reach down and do 1 rep, then stand back up again, re-brace, reach down for another rep, and repeat for 3 reps. That's 1 set. This causes a huge overload on the upper back and traps and has given me the best kind of upper back soreness every time. If you like rows, I think you'll love these. For me, they've reignited that upper back focused, I want a massive strongman back above all other things type spark, and I'll be doing them in every sandbag session from now on. Let me know if you give them a try.